What is up, my fellow writing addicts? I'm Marissa.
And I'm Haley.
And this is Keo, my kitten.
The little shit who keeps biting our cords, so now he's stuck here.
Yes. He does not ring his collar right now because it makes a lot of noise, but yes, this is a kitten. He's 8 months old. Anyway, moving on. We are here to discuss our top 5 least favorite genres. Mainly because, it's 2020 and everyone's bitching about the state of the world, so we thought, why not bitch about something else?
Yeah. And everyone has those genres that they're never going to read ever again because it's just not their thing.
Or, they just, if you had to choose between, between fantasy or this one other, because everyone typically likes fantasy, then you're going to obviously be more inclined to go to the fantasy section. So these are ours, and I'm going to go
No, you're stuck here!
I'm gonna go first, and my first one is romance. I'm sorry, I can't really read a lot of romance books, mainly because I don't really go into books for romance. That's just not my kind of escapism, I guess. So whenever I go into the romance genre just to peruse because I'm bored, nothing really catches... I'm sorry, Kira, just booped you in the face. Nothing really catches my attention, unfortunately. But, if you like romance, power to you. It's just, I can't have that be... the main thing. It drives me nuts. I can barely do it in movies.
Yeah, it's not my favorite either, mainly because of the tropes, and of all the books, I find that romance is the most, it feels like the most likely to...
Give me kitty.
Romance is the most likely to, be really cliche, but my, first least favorite book, not number 1 though, it's bottom of my list, is horror. Only because it doesn't scare me for some reason. I'm a fucking chicken when it comes to horror movies. But when it comes to horror books, I don't know, it doesn't affect me. I don't get scared. And so it's really the disappointment that gets to me, that kills me.
I feel you. I don't read a lot of horror. I'm trying to get into it. I'm trying to read a lot more Stephen King and everything. Right now I'm reading The Shining, and so far I like it. It's really good, and the little bit of bits of kind of scary. It's not, there hasn't been a lot. It's mostly been oh no, Danny's hurt kind of things. That's been good, and it's really well paced. So my second, and this is definitely the one I kind of, it's definitely not the top, and it's definitely not the bottom of my list. It's mystery/crime, and it's not that I don't read mystery. I do like mystery. It's just anytime it's I'm super picky, basically. If it's a detective, I'm immediately no. I don't know why, but I do not want to read from a detective's point of view.
No, Keo, you're stuck here!
I can't do it. Just like Keo can't stay in our arms. And without gnawing on something. Jesus Christ. And, I don't know, do you read mystery or crime?
I don't, but not because I don't like it. It's just, I just haven't gone around to it.
I feel you.
It's more recently that I'm trying to branch out from my usual, which is young adult and fantasy.
I have mystery books that I need to read. Story of my life. So I'm trying, but I don't think I'll really get into the crime thing unless it's true crime.
Yeah. My next least favorite is, retellings, with the exception of mythology, but fairy tale retellings or usually fairy tale retellings.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because it tends to be either whatever twists they have I don't like, or it's too similar to the original.
What's weird is that if they're going to put a twist on it, it has to be a twist that grabs my attention. A lot of times it's oh, what if they hate each other? And I'm that's the whole point of the fairy tales, that they like each other. I personally like mythology retellings.
Same.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
I did get one retellings of classic fairy tales, but they made them gay, and I'm
oh yeah, I got
down.
that too.
Literally, that's all I needed. We made it gay, and I'm I'm down. Give me.
Yes.
I need more gay in my life. So, my least favorite, and I think this is not the worst, but the one I would tolerate the most, is dystopian. And that's just because when we were teenagers in high school, there were so many dystopians. It was the age of the dystopian, also the age of the vampire, but it went from vampire to dystopian, and we were kind of there for that shift.
Yeah.
And then everything was a dystopian. And I was oh my god, yeah, I've never seen this before. Now I'm oversaturated with it, just like with vampires, and it's I'm sure give it another like few years, I'll be back in dystopians, but as of right now, it better have a bomb ass plot and glowing reviews for me to pick up another dystopian, you know?
If I had like a number 6, it would be young adult novels.
Yeah.
Because I like right now I don't like it because of the same reason as you. I've been oversaturated with it. Too many, like I can like read this, like the back of the book, and then I'm like, okay, I know exactly what's gonna happen through this novel. Bye.
Because like you just pick out the tropes like faster than ever, and it's kind of boring that way. So it's less fun, which is also really sad because we could be missing out like on amazing books. But instead, we're just seeing like the tropes and shit.
Yeah, I mean, dystopian would be like on my list of top 5 favorite genres, because even though it's oversaturated, I'm a sucker for dystopian, especially post-apocalyptic. That's my favorite. But something that isn't my favorite, that transition is, okay, I don't know if you want to call this a genre, but yeah, it's a genre, poetry, because for some reason I'm like,
it's a whole thing. It's literally it's a lot to throw into one thing.
Yeah, and the reason why I don't like poetry is because I'm like poetry illiterate. I read it and I'm like, I don't get it.
See, that's me with humor. I can't read humor in books very well. It's a problem.
Yeah, and like, I don't know. It's just something with poetry, it doesn't connect in my brain. It doesn't connect with me.
The reason I don't like to read poetry, I can write essays on poetry very well, actually. According to my English teachers. But I just can't like pick up a book of poetry and read them. And I know some of you are like, oh, you should read like one at a time, one per day. And I'm like, I still can't do that. I'd rather have something much longer to consume. And I mean, Haley and I always kind of go with this with our writing styles. I like to just add a lot of like detail of like what a character's thinking and all this other thing of like their psychological thinking. And she's like, no, it'll be a bit faster, but that's just what I need. There's got to be a lot more meat on that bone for me to gnaw on for like 5 hours. So my next one that I can't get into due to like my own personal things is religious fiction. And for a little backstory, I was in Catholic school for 10 years, from like preschool to 8th grade, because I know how you're like, how the fuck for 10 years? What? Did you get held back? What the balls? No, I wasn't. But when I entered high school, I specifically went to a non-religious high school because I was tired of learning about religion. And that's kind of when I fell out of it. And so due to my own personal hang-ups about religion, I can't really read a religious book, unfortunately. It's on my end. I'm sure they're lovely. I don't know.
Yeah. For me, I also don't really like reading religious fiction for a completely different reason. So I'm like, okay, I flip-flop between atheist and agnostic. So whenever I read something that's like really God-heavy, I kind of lose interest. And I mean, I don't mind if there's religion in a book, and I don't mind if a character, or especially the main character, is religious.
Yeah.
What I mind is specifically like Christian fiction, where it's all about like God. God is in everything. God does everything. Like, God is basically another character. And especially, what I especially hate is when God basically is the literal Deus Ex Machina and solves everything, and even like does things that at this point makes him more of a supernatural creature, you know?
I just remember one book you had to read and you told me about it, and it was like what I really hated about that book, and this shows up sometimes, and this is like especially what I hate, and I hate this also in religious people, is if they're the like a person does something, like someone I don't know, graduates high school or college or something like really momentous and they had to work really, really hard for, and they're like, oh my God, God did this for you. And it's like, no, give them some credit. But in the book that she was reading, everything was like, oh, detective, you figured it out. Nope, it was God. I'm not even kidding you. That's exactly what it says. Like, nope, I didn't do anything. It was God. And it was like, did you just sit at home then? Why are you here?
I also hate the flip side where someone does something really bad and it's like, oh, Satan has you. Satan did this. And it's like, no, that's just a shitty person.
Basically, yeah. It's like, dude, just give the person either some credit or accountability.
Yeah.
You can say, yeah, God helped or Satan tempted, but it's just, I don't meet those people generally, and I don't see that a lot in books, but I try.
But when it does show up,
Ooh,
I don't like it.
Nope. Yeah. No.
So my next one is going to be a memoir. Because, okay, so when I read a book, I like it being fictional because I feel like I can have more thoughts about a character. I can judge characters easier. And when a character goes through something really bad or traumatic or whatever, I'll be sad. I'll feel for them, but I won't feel for them too much because I know it's fictional. Like, it's not real. But when it's like an actual person, I feel like I can't judge them. I have a hard time doing it, and like I have a hard time separating myself from the events because I know that it actually happened. I know that this real life person actually went through something like really bad or traumatic, or they actually like got hurt or stuff like that. And so it kind of brings me too much into reality.
Yeah, there's always a difference between like if you read like a fictional character's trauma or if I wrote a very detailed account of my trauma. There's a lot difference. I feel you. I just don't like it because I don't like the format memoirs tend to take, where they tend to add more than necessary.
Yeah.
Or I do read a lot where it is more like an autobiography than a memoir. I swear to God, there's a difference. I just can't immediately think of it. You know it, but if someone asked you, you couldn't tell.
I think it's because autobiography is nonfiction, memoir is creative nonfiction.
There we go.
That's how I
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just don't like the format it takes, and typically when I see a memoir, I just don't find their lives that interesting. It's what I'm like, where are all these amazing, like, life-changing memoirs that you're reading?
I know.
I would totally read it if it was about anything that good. That's why I read true crime, because that's fascinating.
Yeah, and also sometimes people's personal opinions are too present in there. Like, when we had an episode on Mary Stu's and Gary Stu's, we talked about how, like, self-insert. Sometimes memoirs are a self-insert.
To be told, anytime you read a memoir and autobiography, it's like, it is biased, because it is that person telling their side of the story.
Yeah, but, like, sometimes it's too biased.
Yeah. But anyway, move on, we'll stop ranting. But yeah, okay.
Merce has one left, but we're saving that for last, because it's also my least favorite, but...
Like, bottom of the barrel... hate genre.
But because we didn't want to just talk about the same genres, we decided to have separate lists with.
So Haley's gonna go next.
Yep, again.
and then we will bash the next genre, as of course we're all doing in this one video.
Yep. All right. So my last one is historical fiction, because specifically like historical drama or historical romance, because I need something fantastical or exciting to add to it, like historical thriller or historical fantasy,
or horror or something.
Yeah, because otherwise with the other, without it, it's boring, and like it's always the same time periods. It's gonna be Civil War or World War I or World War II or Victorian or Regency.
Honestly, I don't mind. Here's the thing. I know, like, because I'm thinking of like all the classics I read. Typically, the people like, they weren't far off from the time period they're writing in.
Yeah.
So it less came across of like us now writing about like that time period.
Yeah, so like...
And more of they actually, like, this is more close to what they actually lived.
Yeah, like, if they've actually kind of lived through that, then it's not really historical fiction anymore.
It's just a classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to throw that out there, that like, if you read some classics, you're like, oh, like, that doesn't count, but just want to throw that out there for reasons. I'm weird.
You are.
Ready for the last one?
Yeah.
So last one, and I'm sorry if you like this genre, is Westerns.
So we mentioned before that we used to work at this publishing company where, like, they publish other genres, but Western was their bread and butter.
Their lifeblood, and again, okay, I will put this disclaimer out. We have not gone out to read a wide variety of Westerns. It's just I particularly had no interest in Westerns before that job. And then once I was in it, the type of Westerns they had us read. Yikes. We'll get into it. But I just want to say that if you enjoy Westerns and you're like, oh, you're wrong, it's not all like this, we understand. It's just unfortunately...
That's just what
coupled with the lack of interest, and then now
yeah,
we're kind of like, no,
we're good. We're not. We don't really feel up to giving it a shot.
I mean, if you have a Western that you're like, no, this will change your mind, put that on the comments below, and we'll give it a shot.
Yeah,
you know, it's only fair.
Yeah.
But the reason we can get into these Westerns is they're misogynistic, very male heavy. I mean, that's not a surprise. Borderline sexist if they're not blatantly sexist.
Mm-hmm.
Rape is either occurring, threatened, or attempted.
Yep. We would add happened in the past, but usually if it happened in the past, the other three is there for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. I always I've mentioned this a lot in these videos, but I say to Haley that like when you are writing, if you have more detail, it's like the camera is focusing on it more. And you'll get these weird scenes where, like, you have, like, the main character dude, and his wife will come down the stairs, and for some reason, we will get, like, this long pause staring at her boobs, and for some reason, her nipples are seen. I don't know what that is about. Weird. And then she'll turn around, and it's, like, ass. And it's, like, not a sexual scene. He's not thinking of banging her or anything. It's just, there's my beautiful wife with her giant tits and peach ass. And it's, like... Why is this every introduction? Like, every time he sees his wife, he's like, titties.
And we also noticed that women only really have, like, four jobs, usually. There's, like, very few exceptions. They're either a housewife, a teacher, a whore, or they used to be a whore, but now they're not.
Typically because they're gonna get married.
Yep.
And so they're like, kicking off all the other men to the curb so they can suit themselves for their real man.
Mm-hmm.
But it is very male heavy. There's a lot of TNA. So in the books that we had to read, there was racism.
Yeah.
Typically against Native Americans.
Sometimes black.
Sometimes black, which was refreshing, actually. It's like, finally, black people aren't getting, like, shit on for once, but fuck, now it's the Native Americans. Why can't we win?
It's actually kind of sad that, like, when I read this, there's only been one book that had a black person in it.
Yeah.
And so, of course, racism toward that black person. But, like, reading the racism, I'm like, finally, a break from the Native American racism.
Right? It's like, Jesus, a break. It is so sad that you're like, it's when you get a break. Honestly, when I found a character, like a woman character that was just existed without like being sexualized, and I think it might have happened once.
I don't even know what book that is.
I swear it happened at least once. I was like, finally. But I think it was just like, and you know what it was? It was like a barmaid, and every time she would show up, it wasn't sexualized. Because it was just, here's your food, and then she'd go poof off into whatever existence.
Oh, you know what women aren't sexualized? The fucking ugly ones. But sometimes even the fucking ugly ones are sexualized because they're like, yeah, she's ugly, look at her sagging tits.
Honestly, what's really awkward is that, like, they have these sex scenes, and I know we're bashing this a lot, but where they're like, she's kind of cute to look at, but she's heavy set, so there was a little bit of fat shaming in there too. Just everything's in the books we read. You can see why we were a little turned off by them, just by a tad.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, yeah, she's not really pretty and she's kind of fat, but like, she's a good lay. She's kind of easy. And I'm like, you're paying her. Of course she's easy.
Oh, and like, don't get me started on how all of them are almost the exact same. Like, I found out there's like, two types of Western. You have the modern Western where it's someone working on a ranch or a farm and like some drama happens. Usually there's like a group of guys who are trying to kill this guy or his family.
Yeah, or like some family. There's always some like weird shit going on, but it's always drama. Or you have like
the cowboys and Indians kind of Western, where you have the main character who is a Gary Stu, who knows everything, is
so good with his weapons. Like, they're always really good with their weapons, and they're always like the fastest draw. And
they're always right.
They always can see through everything. Sometimes they're mainly new to the town, or if it's a series, like that's the town they've just claimed.
Oh, they're either new to the town or they're the sheriff.
Or like, yeah, and if it's the other version, like they've grown up with it their whole life, or they escaped from like some mysterious past. Like there's always a lot of tropes. But anyway, we'll stop bashing it. But again, if you like Westerns, I'm sorry, but you can clearly see why reading the books that we were, and we're not going to put it out because we don't want to like send people to bash these authors. Just no. That's not fair of us.
I think our thing against Westerns is a lot more personal than objective.
Yeah, again, getting the sample pool we got, you can see why we're a bit turned off. If all you got was of romance was
50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to read anymore. You'd be like, I'm good. Not that that's all romance, which is really erotica, but hey. Let's not even go there. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching our video. What do you think about our, well, technically top 10 if you conclude both of our top 5s, but basically our each top 5s, favorite genres. Least favorite.
Yeah, and then what are your least favorite genres?
Yes, please tell us down in the comments below. And make sure to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and hit the notification bell so you're actually notified when our videos come out.
Also check us out on Twitter at writing_addicts or on Facebook at facebook.com/writingaddicts.
And we'll see you next time. Bye!